Audio on demand from Vision Christian Media.
Foundations.
But Reform Judaism believes that Judaism on the whole is frozen in time and that it can't coexist with those who live in modern times. And if you're looking at the ultra-Orthodox, you go, well, that's true.
Yeah, that's right.
Foundations. Understanding the Jewish foundations of our Christian faith. With Robbo Robinson and Mandy Warby.
Over the last few programs, we've been exploring various branches of Judaism. Last time we learned about Masorti or conservative Judaism. And in this program, we're going to be learning about Reformed Judaism. And I guess that poses a question right from the start. What is Reformed?
Well, yeah, it depends on your definition, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because for the Christian community, if you say I'm part of a Reformed congregation, that generally tends to mean a congregation that is not traditional, which often tends to be very allegorical, very left-leaning, more socially minded denominations, and not to the extreme of your, Pentecostal swinging from the chandeliers, signs and wonders sort of congregation, but you more want to stay orthodox, hold to sound doctrine and not go off to the extremes on either end. And that would be more Reformed. And you would say that comes out of very much the very beginnings of the Reformation. Mm-hmm. But if you were to say, is that the definition or meaning of Reformed Judaism, I'd go, no, not even close, not even close.
Right.
So it is actually pretty important to get the meaning of Reformed.
I guess definitions are important, aren't they?
Really important. And once again, I had to go and do some digging and research. I found numerous different sites, because I wanted to find out not just what it is, but what it isn't as well. But reformjudaism.org was a good site where I started. It gave me a better handle on what they believe and what they're about. Those in the Reform community believe very strongly in their Jewish heritage and history, as do all Jewish groups. They know they have a strong Jewish traditional background. Again, that just goes par for the course for them. If it's not tradition, there's no tradition, it's not Jewish. It's just the way it is. Going back to their very earliest days. But Reform Judaism believes that Judaism on the whole is frozen in time and that it can't coexist with those who live in modern times. And if you're looking at the ultra-Orthodox, you go, well, that's true.
Yeah, that's right.
So they want to kind of adapt and reform.
Looking at that website you mentioned, reformjudaism.org, they define this further and they say that they want to embrace Reformed Judaism, wants to embrace diversity while asserting commonality, to affirm beliefs without rejecting those who doubt, and to bring faith to sacred texts without sacrificing critical scholarship. So that's a quote from the website, but I guess it sort of gives a bit of an idea where they're coming from.
Yeah, it's kind of like, this is what we've always believed, but we don't have to keep believing it if we don't want to.
Yeah.
If there's something comes up, it makes them a bit uncomfortable, well, they're quite happy to just go with what's the flavour of the current situation.
Yeah.
I looked at other Jewish online sources as well to see what they have to say about the Reform branch of Judaism, and this is what I found at the Jewish Virtual Library. Quote, Reform Judaism is the most liberal of the major movements within Judaism today. It started in the 1800s in Germany during the Emancipation and encouraged the examination of all religion with an eye toward rationality and egalitarianism. Reform Judaism differs from all other major movements in that it views both the oral and the written laws as products of human hands. Specifically, it views the Torah as divinely inspired but written in the language of the time in which it was given. The laws reflect their times but contain many timeless truths. The Reform movement stresses retention of the key principles of Judaism. As for practice, it strongly recommends individual study of the traditional practices. However, the adherent is free to follow only those practices that increase the sanctity of their relationship with God. Reform Judaism also stresses equality between the sexes. You would read that and go, oh, that's okay. It's sorta. But if you dig a little deeper, you find it's can be a bit dodgy.
So then how do they fit with current social trends? Because, obviously these different groups are on a real spectrum in that regard.
It's a huge spectrum, isn't it? It's surprised me just how diverse they are. Yeah, because they're a very liberal movement, Reform Judaism has, well, they've got liberal views on all the current social trends. For example, they're okay with their congregations and even some rabbis being practicing members of the LGBTQ community. They're training and ordaining female rabbis, which traditionally that's not the case in Judaism, right. But they're quite happy for them to go that way because it's socially acceptable now. That's the trend. They believe it's appropriate for unborn babies that have deformities or health issues to be aborted, or if the mother's life is in danger. So again, they don't necessarily endorse or encourage abortion. So I want to stress that. They don't encourage or endorse it, but neither do they condemn or counsel against it. The Reform community is very welcoming of people of all faiths, creeds, colours, lifestyles. So yes, they're very liberal, and politically they tend to lean quite a lot to the left. I guess it's sort of like a real universal or universalism in their approach. Oh, very, very much. They would never say to somebody who is of completely different faith or anything that, okay, well, you know, you're believing in the wrong thing. Like Christians would say Jesus is the only way. They would never say that about their faith to anybody else. All roads lead to Rome. All roads lead to the same place and God there in the end, regardless of what you call him. The other thing that is quite common within Reform communities around the world is they tend to be, not all, but they tend to be hostile to the nation of Israel, believing that Israel is oppressive and abusive of the Palestinian people. Again, not all. I don't want to say they all do that. But let's just say a common trend, you might say. It is a common trend, a large contingent of them. And they will often get into political lobbying against the Jewish people in Israel, against the Israeli government, will very often align with Israel's enemies as well. For many people who love the Jewish people and have been learning about their history and what's going on, they're known as self-hating Jews. It's almost like if they'll put themselves down and their own people down, then maybe, just maybe for once, the world will like them and think they're good people. Interesting. Yeah, and it's very problematic for the Jewish state, that's for sure. Well, how do the Israeli Jews handle that sort of criticism? Because obviously that's being aimed right at them. How do they deal with that? Well, it would be very much as if a member of my own family just attacked me constantly. I mean, it's heartbreaking. Yeah. They really struggle with it. They really do. And they don't understand how somebody who lives in a different country, in another, you know, a long, long way away from where they are, condemns them when they have to deal with attacks and threats that are not just on their borders, but from within their own neighbourhoods very often, different towns and communities. I mean, it's very hard for the Jews of Israel to look at the Jews around the world who sit there pointing the finger at them, condemning them. And they're going, you don't know what this is like. Yeah. And even accusing them of things that they haven't done. Oh, that's a massive one. It's really hard for many Jews to watch liberal Jews in other countries marching in protest against them when they haven't committed any crimes for which they've been accused. That's very, very sad. You can understand how that would be very hurtful for them as well to have to deal with that. It's devastating. Now, another feature of Reform Judaism as a movement is their embrace of interfaith connections. And we did mention this just before. Since 1978, this movement has tried to build bridges between Jews of other denominations, such as the Hasidic, Haredi and the other groups, without a great deal of success, because those groups tend to see Reform Jews as being off the wall. Right. But they're also very enthusiastic in participating in, say, interfaith events with those of other religions as well. So they're very, very liberal. They're socially focused as a movement. They're not bad people, I might add. Not by any means. They can do a lot of good in society. They're very generous. They'll get involved in different volunteer organisations that do good things. So they've, I guess, like a lot of liberal religious groups, they're into good works to be as friendly and welcoming of everybody. Unfortunately, that also tends to alienate them from their own in many respects. And I guess they're watering down their own foundations in the same process, aren't they, which isn't a helpful thing. Yeah, because if you actually say you have these foundations and then you water them down, if you stand for nothing, what's the saying? If you stand for nothing, you fall for anything. Well, that's a quick look at Reformed Judaism. We're going to continue our exploration of the different branches of Judaism next time on Foundations.
This has been Foundations, a look at the Jewish foundations of our Christian faith. For study notes, resources and more, see vision.org.au/foundations.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.